Most men are not confused because women are complicated. They are confused because they are looking in the wrong place. They expect clarity to come through words, direct statements, obvious actions, something they can easily point to and say, "This is what it means." But attraction, emotion, and attachment rarely operate on that level. What you are dealing with is not logic, it is human nature. And human nature does not always speak loudly. It whispers. And if you are not trained to listen to those whispers, you will miss everything that actually matters. A woman who misses you does not always say it. In fact, most of the time, she won't. Not because the feeling is not there, but because expression comes with risk. The risk of rejection. The risk of losing emotional leverage. The risk of appearing vulnerable in a position where she no longer feels fully in control. So instead of speaking directly, she adapts. She becomes subtle. She communicates through behavior, timing, presence, and absence. Through what she does, and even more importantly, through what she avoids doing. And unless you are paying attention at a deeper level, you will either ignore these signals, or misinterpret them completely. That is where most men fail. They operate on surface-level awareness. They react too quickly, assume too much, and attach meaning based on emotion rather than observation. They chase clarity instead of developing perception. And because of that, they constantly find themselves in situations where they feel confused, uncertain, and out of control. But a man grounded in Stoic masculinity moves differently. He is not desperate for answers. He is not emotionally pulled by every small shift in behavior. He understands that power comes from observation, not reaction. From patience, not urgency. From discipline, not impulse. He sees patterns where others see randomness. He understands that silence is not empty, it is loaded. And when you begin to develop this level of awareness, something changes. You stop feeling lost in situations like this. You stop overthinking every interaction. You stop placing yourself in a position where someone else's actions control your state of mind. Instead, you become steady. You become clear. You become dangerous in a quiet, controlled way. Because now, you are no longer reacting to what is obvious, you are understanding what is hidden. In this video, you are going to go deeper than surface-level advice. You are going to understand 3 powerful silent signals women send when they secretly miss you, signals that are easy to overlook, but impossible to ignore once you truly see them. This is not about manipulation. This is not about playing games. This is about awareness, and what you choose to do with it. Because once you understand these signals, you have a choice. You can remain like most men, reactive, impatient, and controlled by emotion. Or you can become the man who observes, understands, and moves with intention. Before we go deeper, subscribe to the channel. Not for entertainment, but for transformation. Because everything you're learning here is designed to sharpen your mindset, strengthen your emotional control, and elevate the way you move in every area of your life. Now pay attention. Because what you're about to understand, most men never do. The first silent signal is controlled re-entry into your world. This is not loud. It is not dramatic. And if you are not paying attention, you will dismiss it as nothing. But it is never nothing. When a woman misses you, especially after distance, conflict, or separation, she rarely returns in a direct, exposed way. She does not come back with full honesty, laying everything out clearly. That would require vulnerability, and vulnerability, in her position, feels like risk. So instead, she chooses control. She finds a way to step back into your space without fully stepping in. It might start with something small, almost too small to take seriously. A reaction to your story. A short reply that carries no real depth. A casual comment that doesn't demand a response. Something that allows her to be present again, without making herself emotionally accountable. And most men fail right here. Because they don't understand what they're seeing. They either ignore it completely, assuming it's meaningless, or they overvalue it and respond with too much energy, too much excitement, too much availability. Both reactions come from the same weakness, lack of awareness. Because this moment is not about the message. It is about the intention behind the message. A woman who does not think about you does not look for subtle ways to reconnect. She does not monitor your presence. She does not carefully choose low-risk entry points into your world. Silence would remain silence. Distance would remain distance. But when she misses you, her behavior shifts. Not loudly, but intentionally. She creates an opening, small enough to protect herself, but real enough to reconnect with you. This is what controlled re-entry looks like. It is cautious. It is calculated. And it is emotionally loaded beneath the surface. She is not just replying to your story. She is asking a question without asking it. She is saying, "Can I step back into your world, without being rejected?" She is saying, "Are you still the same man I left, or have you changed?" She is saying, "Is it safe for me to come closer again?" But she will never say these things directly. And that is why most men misread the moment. Because they are waiting for clarity instead of recognizing patterns. Now here is where everything shifts. Your response in this moment determines the entire dynamic going forward. If you respond with urgency, you communicate need. If you respond with excitement that feels uncontrolled, you communicate that you've been waiting, that your emotional state is tied to her presence. And once that is felt, attraction weakens. Respect drops. The dynamic resets in a way that puts you in a lower position than before. But a Stoic man sees this moment for what it is. He understands that this is not a full return, it is a test. A test of your emotional control. A test of your growth. A test of whether you are still grounded, or still reactive. So he does not rush. He does not ignore either, because indifference can also be a form of insecurity if it is forced. He responds, but with calm. Measured. Unbothered. He gives just enough to acknowledge, but not enough to chase. And this creates something powerful. It creates space. Space for her to wonder. Space for her to feel your stability. Space for her to slowly lower her guard without feeling like she is in control of the situation. Because now, she cannot read you easily. She expected one of two versions of you, the man who is overly eager, or the man who is bitter and distant. But instead, she meets a version that is composed. Present, but not attached. Engaged, but not dependent. And that is what draws her in deeper. Because emotional control is rare. Most people react. Most people reveal everything too quickly. But when you don't, When you hold your frame without force, you create curiosity. And curiosity leads to attention. Attention leads to investment. And investment is what rebuilds connection. Controlled re-entry is the first signal because it is the safest way for her to test the waters. But it is also the most important moment for you. Because if you mishandle it, everything collapses before it even begins. And if you handle it with patience and awareness, you set the tone for everything that follows. The next signal goes even deeper. Because it reveals not just her actions, but her emotional connection to you, even in your absence. The second silent signal is behavioral alignment. This is where things move beyond simple contact, and into connection that still exists beneath the surface. Because a woman who truly misses you does not just reach out indirectly, she begins to align herself with you, often without even realizing she's doing it. This is not something she plans consciously. It's not a strategy. It's emotional gravity. When someone still occupies space in your mind, your actions begin to orbit around them. Subtly. Quietly. But consistently. And this is what most men fail to see. They are looking for obvious signs, messages, confessions, clear intent. But what reveals the truth is not always direct communication, it is patterned behavior. You may notice that when you go silent, she becomes more visible. When you stop posting, she becomes more active. When you reappear, she somehow repositions herself within your awareness again. Not always directly toward you, but close enough to be noticed. This is not coincidence. It is alignment. She is adjusting her presence based on yours. And the reason is simple, she is still connected to you emotionally. Even if she has chosen distance. Even if she has convinced herself to move on. Even if she is trying to maintain control. That connection does not disappear instantly. It lingers. And it expresses itself through synchronization. You might see it in the kind of content she shares. The timing of her activity. The way she engages, not necessarily with you directly, but around you. It's as if there is an invisible thread, not strong enough to pull you together forcefully, but strong enough to keep both of you within each other's awareness. Now understand this clearly. This is not about overanalyzing every move she makes. That's where most men go wrong. They become obsessive. They start attaching meaning to every single post, every online moment, every small detail, and they lose themselves in the process. That is not awareness. That is insecurity wearing the mask of intelligence. A Stoic man operates differently. He does not chase patterns. He notices them. He does not react emotionally to alignment. He acknowledges it, and stays grounded. Because his focus is not on decoding her every move. His focus is on maintaining his center. And this is where his power comes from. Because while she is unconsciously aligning her behavior with his presence, he is consciously choosing not to be controlled by it. He remains steady regardless of what he sees. And that steadiness creates something rare. It creates emotional contrast. She feels the pull, but she cannot fully read the response. She adjusts, but does not get immediate validation. She moves closer, but does not feel like she has regained control. And that uncertainty, that space between action and reaction, is where attraction begins to grow again. Because now, her attention increases. She starts to watch more closely. She becomes more aware of how you move, how you respond, how you exist without reacting to her subtle signals. And in that awareness, her emotional investment deepens. Not because you are chasing her, but because you are not. Behavioral alignment is powerful because it reveals something deeper than words ever could. It shows that even in silence, even in distance, she is still tuned into you. Still aware of you. Still adjusting around your presence. And when you understand this without becoming consumed by it, you place yourself in a position most men never reach. A position of quiet control. Because now, you are not reacting to her actions. You are allowing her actions to reveal her. And that changes everything. The third signal is the one that brings all of this to the surface. It is the point where hidden emotion begins to leak, even when she tries to contain it. The third silent signal is restrained jealousy. This is where emotion can no longer stay completely hidden. Up until this point, everything has been controlled, measured, subtle. She has been careful not to expose too much, careful not to lose her position, careful not to reveal how deeply she still feels. But jealousy is different. Jealousy is pressure. And pressure always finds a way to escape. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But in ways that are impossible to fake if you are paying attention. When a woman truly misses you, the idea of you moving on does not sit comfortably within her. Even if she was the one who created distance. Even if she told herself it was the right decision. Even if she appears unaffected on the surface. Emotion does not follow logic. Connection does not disappear just because distance exists. So when she sees you living your life, growing, engaging, possibly connecting with others, something shifts internally. And she begins to respond. Not with confrontation, but with controlled expression. You might notice a sudden increase in her presence when you appear to be doing well. When you are active. When you are visible. When there is a possibility, real or perceived, that your attention is no longer available to her. She watches more closely. Her engagement becomes more intentional. Sometimes she reacts in ways that feel slightly out of character, more curious, more attentive, sometimes even slightly distant in a way that feels calculated. Other times, she may begin to position herself in a way that draws your attention again. Not directly competing, but reminding you of her presence. These are not random shifts. This is emotional tension trying to rebalance itself. Because jealousy, in this form, is not about control over you. It is about fear of losing the emotional connection that still exists. And this is where most men completely destroy the dynamic. The moment they sense jealousy, they try to use it. They become performative. They start posting with intention to provoke. They exaggerate their lifestyle. They force interactions with other women just to create a reaction. And in doing that, they expose something they don't realize they're showing: need for validation. Because if your actions are designed to provoke a reaction, then your emotional state is still dependent on her response. And that is weakness. A Stoic man does not exploit jealousy. He doesn't need to. Because his value is not built on reactions. It is built on presence. He continues to live his life in a way that is genuine, not strategic for attention. He grows because that is who he is, not because he wants to be seen. He engages with others naturally, not as a tool to trigger emotion. And because of that, his actions carry weight. They feel real. They feel grounded. And that is what makes the difference. Because restrained jealousy does not respond to manipulation. It responds to authenticity combined with emotional control. When she sees that you are moving forward, not to prove anything, not to replace her, but because you are genuinely stable within yourself, the emotion deepens. Because now, it is no longer just about missing you. It is about realizing that you are not standing still. That your world does not revolve around her absence. That you are not waiting. And that realization creates urgency, not external, but internal. She begins to feel the gap more clearly. She begins to question her distance. She begins to feel the weight of what she might lose completely. And all of this happens, without you saying a word. That is the power of restraint. That is the power of staying grounded. Because while most men react to emotion, a Stoic man allows emotion to reveal itself. And when you reach that level of control, you stop trying to force outcomes. You stop trying to manage how others feel. You simply become the man whose presence cannot be easily replaced. Because it is not loud. It is not desperate. It is not chasing. It is calm. It is steady. It is rare. And rare is what people remember, long after they pretend to move on. Now that you understand these signals, you need to confront something most men avoid. Recognition is not power. Control is. It's easy to watch a video like this, feel enlightened, and believe you now understand women. But understanding means nothing if your behavior does not change. If your emotions still dictate your actions, if your impulses still override your discipline, then all you have gained is awareness without authority. And awareness without control is dangerous. Because now you see more, but you still react the same. A Stoic man does not stop at recognition. He translates understanding into restraint. This is where the real separation happens. Because when these signals show up, when she re-enters subtly, aligns her behavior, or reveals restrained jealousy, you will feel something. You are human. You will feel curiosity, excitement, maybe even the urge to act quickly and take advantage of the moment. That urge is the test. Not her behavior. Your response to it. Most men fail this test instantly. They think, this is my chance, and they rush in without structure. They abandon patience. They abandon standards. They abandon the very traits that would have made them attractive in the first place. And in doing that, they reverse everything. Because attraction is not built on opportunity. It is built on consistency of character. If you are calm one moment and impulsive the next, you are unpredictable in the wrong way. Not mysterious, but unstable. And instability kills respect. So what does control actually look like in this situation? It looks like slowing down when everything inside you wants to speed up. It looks like responding without overinvesting. It looks like allowing space to exist without trying to fill it with constant interaction. It looks like maintaining your routine, your purpose, your direction, regardless of whether she is present or not. Because the moment your focus shifts entirely onto her, you have already lost the frame. You have made her the center again. And a Stoic man never builds his life around one person's presence. He builds his life in a way that others are drawn into it, not the other way around. This is the mindset you must develop. Not, how do I get her back? But, how do I remain grounded no matter what happens next? Because here is the truth most people won't tell you. Sometimes she will come back. Sometimes she will move closer, open up, and re-establish connection. But other times, she won't. And if your entire sense of control depends on her returning, then you are still in a weak position. True power is not in the outcome. It is in your independence from the outcome. That is what gives you clarity. That is what allows you to respond instead of react. That is what keeps your emotions from being manipulated by uncertainty. And when you operate from that place, something shifts. You stop trying to win people over. You stop trying to force connections. You stop trying to decode every move just to feel secure. Instead, you become selective. Intentional. You begin to ask better questions. Not, does she miss me? But, does her behavior align with my standards? Not, how do I get her attention? But, is her presence adding value to my life? That shift alone changes everything. Because now, you are not chasing signals. You are evaluating them. You are not reacting emotionally. You are deciding consciously. And that is what puts you in control. Because in the end, this is not about her signals. It is about your stability. Your discipline. Your ability to remain composed in situations where most people lose themselves. If you can master that, then it doesn't matter who comes or goes. You will always remain in position. And that is the ultimate goal. Not control over others, but control over yourself. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and stay connected. Because what you're building here is not just awareness of relationships. It's a mindset that will change how you move in every area of your life. And once you truly develop that, you don't chase clarity anymore. You become it.